I'm Emma, if we haven't met. I am really obsessed with needle felted steeks. So if you don't know what steeking is, welcome, we talk about it a lot. It's when you cut your knitting with scissors, which sounds really scary for a lot of people who've never done that before. You're like, you what? You know, I'm sure, yeah, some of you have like gasped audibly at Corinne saying she didn't reinforce her steeks and nothing happened. But wool does not like to unravel, at least not sticky wool or, you know, woolly wool as we would call it. Wool doesn't like to unravel, excuse me, it likes to unravel this way and not this way. So it'll ladder, especially you'll notice with superwash, if you drop a stitch, what happens is that you get a ladder this way. You don't get a ladder this way. Wool doesn't want to unravel horizontally. And that probably has something to do with physics. And I am not a physicist, so I don't actually understand how that, you know, why that works that way. But like, all I need to know is it doesn't unravel this way. Although reinforcing a steek, so basically stopping that steek, the yarn in that steek that you cut from unraveling any which way, does help a lot of people feel better about steeking. So you can do it in a few different ways. A really common way to reinforce a steek for a lot of people is to use a sewing machine. And I don't have a sewing machine, so I can't tell you exactly how to do that, but there are a lot of online tutorials. My mom has used a sewing machine to reinforce her steeks. A lot of people favor a crochet steek reinforcement. So you make a crochet chain on either side of where you're going to cut to keep that yarn from unraveling, almost in like a duplicate stitch kind of way, but you're using your crochet hook and slightly different things. I am not great with a crochet hook, so I've never done a crochet reinforced steek. But a few years ago, I learned from the folks at Modern Daily Knitting who had a newsletter about this, and I found this really helpful, to use a needle felting tool. I have one here, to reinforce a steek, because if you needle felt something, a needle felting tool is, this only has 2 needles because one of them fell off. Also, they're twisted, or they're, excuse me, bent, because I am not careful with my belongings. I don't know what happened. I probably like didn't put the cap on, and the needles get bent on these really easily. This is from, I think it's made by Clover, and they come with 3, but you can get, if you just Google needle felting tool, you can get a lot of different types. Yeah, I think you can see that. So it has these little barbs on it. And what the barbs do is when you go like this into the material, the wool, it pushes and pulls the, you know, if it's non-superwash and the fibers are able to jumble, especially if it's like woolen spun, that tends to work even better. The fibers will stick together. Like it will like, this locks the fibers together essentially. So it's not like bulletproof, but when it comes to needle felting a steek in woolly non-superwash wool, I've never tried it on like not super woolly non-superwash wool, but I imagine it would probably work. I have used, I have used like a less woolly. So one time I made a sweater with Armskip Manor DK yarn as the body of the card. It was a cardigan because I steeked it up. It was my first steek ever. It was our Armskip Manor cardigan. I got the yarn from the Woolly Thistle, and I used like a just kind of like a commercially available, like not super woolly, non-superwash wool. I might have even gotten it wholesale because I like to dye yarn. I just had this around, and I used it in the yoke as like with the gray Armskip Manor yarn, which was really nice. And I steeked that with a needle felting tool, and it never unraveled. So I think you can use it with any, this technique with any non-superwash yarn. Sorry, that was a lot of information. But moral of the story, you can probably use the needle felting tool to steek pretty much anything with non-superwash. So I am actually at a point where I need to do this. And so I'm going to do a little demo so you can see. So this is a sweater that I've been working on. I am making this one a v-neck, and so I am like, I had to improvise that. I've done a v-neck sweaters before in Fair Isle, so I know kind of what I'm doing. But so basically I'm gonna needle felt all the steeks. So I've got a v-neck steek, and I have this arm size steek. It's really messy because this is where I change colors, because you actually don't have to weave in the ends if there's a steek and your ends are like within the steek. You can just trim them. And then there's this arm size steek, which does not have floats, or excuse me, does not have ends. Floats. It does have floats. I always purl the first and last stitches of my steek just so I know that where exactly to pick up my stitches in a straight line on the outside of the steek. So that helps me. You can purl the whole steek if you want. Sometimes if you're doing a piece in just one color, but there's a steek like in the Victory cardigan, you could purl the whole steek except the middle stitch, and then you know exactly where to cut, which is cool because you want to try and cut as close to the center of the steek as you can. But I have one more piece of advice here for you, which is I do not close my shoulders. So I'm going to graft these shoulders of this together, like here and here. I'm going to close this. I'm going to keep my back neck stitches on hold to then, because I'm going to knit the neckband. I'm going to pick up along this steek, the V-neck steek, and then I'm going to put those held stitches back on the needles to knit the neckband, but I'm going to graft the shoulders together. But before I do that, I'm going to needle felt the steeks because it's really hard sometimes to get your needle felting mat into the like little nooks and crannies when these are closed, when the shoulders are closed. So I have two needle felting mats. This is a smaller one that I actually prefer to use. Then I have a bigger one. That's just, oops, there's a piece of fiber on it. This is just, I don't know who makes it, probably got it online. So you need a mat because, or something in which to drill this into because you're going to wreck. You can't do that on a hard, you can't do it on a hard surface. This needs to be able to sink into something. So yeah, a wool mat or a dense foam mat is what you need. And don't try to use your yoga mat. I don't think that would work. Although if someone's ever used a yoga mat to steek, let me know because that sounds funny. So I'm going to use this one and I'm going to point my camera down and I'm going to show you how I do this if you've never seen it before. There's the bridge. I'm going to put this inside. So I have the mat on the inside here. You can see that. And I use my tool. And I am just gonna stab and stab and stab. This is really good if you're like a slightly aggressive person, but you don't want to like yell at somebody. Like there was really bad traffic on my commute today and I'm really mad and I have all this aggression in my body, but like I don't want to take it out on somebody. It's a really good technique to get rid of some of it. So yeah, you don't need to do this for an hour. You need to just like, I like to try and stab as much of the surface area as possible, but like stabbing one of these, you know, whole things should take me from 2 to 5 minutes. So yeah, not super tricky. It does look kind of fuzzy on the underside. You can see it's a little, I don't know if you can tell, but it's a little fuzzier here than it is up here. It means it's working. But on less woolly wools, it doesn't always feel fuzzy. So that's okay. It's still probably secure. I just assume because I can't really tell. But again, I've never had any of these unravel. So of course I've done a Corinne before too and like not reinforced my steeks on arm size before because I've just been like on vacation and finished something and I'm like, I don't have time. I need to start the sleeves. And so I just cut, but, which I have done that. And nothing has ever unraveled, but it's a little scarier. The only other thing I'm going to say that I do here, is that, when I'm done and so when I'm done with this, I will graft the shoulders together and put those back neck stitches on hold. I graft my shoulders together using, a 3 needle bind off on the inside. So there's a nice little, it looks like a sewn seam here, which is nice. The next thing is that I block it because I want those stitches to really settle. I want them to feel like they're just kind of settled into like where they want to be, because blocking really helps well with that. And then I will pick up the stitches. So along the V-neck and along the arm size, or basically the holes where I'm gonna knit the sleeves down this way. I'm gonna pick up all those stitches before I cut the steeks open. So I always do the neck first if I have a neck steek, whether that's a crew neck or a V-neck, so that I can actually be able to put it over my head, and I knit the neckband. And then I do one sleeve, I pick it up magic loop style, and then I usually switch to a 16-inch circular. And then eventually I have to switch back to either magic loop or a smaller circular, like I have the Chiaogu minis, the like or the really shorties, I guess. I have the mini and the like the red and the blue sets of those. So sometimes I switch to that, or I just switch to magic loop depending on my preference. I prefer the Chiaogu shorties. This is personal preference. I prefer the bigger needles on the Chiaogu shorties. Like, I don't know why the smaller needles, just like they feel really flimsy in my hands, and I don't personally like love that. So you got to experiment with what's right for you. If you like magic loop, if you like DPNs, or if you like those little shorties for Fair Isle or any sleeves. And yeah, so I'll do the first, like I said, I'll pick up the stitches for the first armscye, steek, and then I will usually cut that one open, and then I will knit onto a circular needle, and then I will pick up the stitches on magic loop needle on the other armscye and cut that open and just leave that on a barber cord or the magic loop needle, and I'll knit one sleeve at a time. But that way I can actually try the sweater on. So the neckband is done. I work on one sleeve. I can try it on with both of my arms, at least through the sleeve holes, even if one is not knitted yet, to see how long I want the sleeve to be. So that's what I do. For anybody who wants to ever do this, or like, you know, DIY a Fair Isle sweater. Again, I have some patterns that I used at first to learn how to do this, which I will link on my Ravelry page for this sweater, which also will have the pictures of the charts in case you like them and you just want to use them. I'm an open access person. Please use these charts on, you know, a hat or anything you want, Fair Isle scarf or a sweater yourself. So thanks for being here, and we'll see you next time. Bye.